Welcome to Earl Stewart on Cars.
A lot of people think they lease the car from the dealer or buy the car and finance it. The contract is assigned. The dealer gets all their money up front. The leasing company or the bank that the contract is assigned to, they get their money over the length of the lease, 36 months, 48 months, 24, whatever the length of the lease is. So that leasing company or bank insists that you make all the payments. If you signed a 36-month lease, they want 36 payments, and you are legally obligated to make 36 payments. You lose your job, you get seriously ill, or if you die. Now, if you die, your estate is responsible for those remaining payments of your lease. It's not like a rental. Too many people think of leasing as rentals. The only difference between a rental and a lease is with a rental, you can bring the car back. You can bring it back anytime you want to. You can rent a car for 2 hours, rent a car for a day, a week, a month, whatever you want to do, and you bring the car back. With a lease, if it says 36 months, you're going to be making 36 payments if the lessor insists. Now, sometimes the manufacturers and the leasing companies work together. They'll give you a break because they want to keep you on the string. They want you to keep coming back and leasing Hondas or Chevrolets or Chryslers. They want you to stay with them. So you might have a 36-month lease, and in 30 months, you got 6 months to go, you get a special offer from the leasing company and the dealer, and they say, bring it in early, and we can put you in another car. And they'll make a special deal, and it'll be a legitimate deal if it's sponsored by the manufacturer. Oftentimes, the dealer will try to get you in early, but he'll take the remaining lease payments that are owed to the lessor and roll them over into your new lease payments. So you're essentially paying your last 6 payments anyway, but they're adding it into your contract on the next car you buy or lease. So be sure that if you get a early termination offer that is from the manufacturer and not from the dealer, because the manufacturer will in fact credit you with whatever number of months they decide to do. But the dealer isn't crediting you with anything. They're actually rolling those payments over into your next purchase or lease. I mentioned earlier that if you die, you sign a lease agreement, your estate is responsible. And I had a situation just a few weeks ago where an elderly man came in. He was in his 90s. He had some serious problems. He knew he wasn't going to live much longer, but he could still drive. And he was concerned about his wife. His wife had a car, too, and she was making payments on her car. He suspected he would predecease his wife, so he asked the salesman, if something happens to me, if I die, what happens to my car? The salesman says, no problem, you just bring it back. Well, by the time he asked me, it was too late because he had already signed the papers, but I told him, I said, I'm sorry, the car can't be brought back. It's still a contractual obligation of your estate. So the wife indirectly, who I'm sure was a sole beneficiary, his wife and the estate were responsible for those payments. I said there's a long shot that you can employ if something happens and you can't make your lease payments. One is there are websites out there. You can Google takeover auto lease payments. There are a number of companies out there that work as a matching service where they take people that want to lease a car and people that want to get rid of their lease, and they try to match them together. That's a real long shot. I've tried to do this for some of my customers, and it hasn't worked out. The only other long shot is sometimes you can appeal to the leasing company, and I've been successful in a few times with my customers. And I go to the leasing company and I say, listen, here's a widow. Her husband passed away. They have 2 cars now. She can't afford to make these payments. Can she return the car without an obligation? Depending on how many lease payments were owed, we've been successful. So if it's a situation, a real true hardship case, I would recommend you go to the leasing company and you try to negotiate something with them. They don't have to do anything. You're contractually obligated, but I've seen mercy on the parts of some leasing companies if you present your case honestly and fairly. And lenders are always more considerate and kind when you show them the courtesy of explaining your situation. As soon as you know you can't make a payment, you should call the lender or the lessor, and usually try to go up the ladder to a supervisor. Sometimes you get people on the desk that are real horses' asses, and they just don't care. But if you go up the ladder on the supervisory wise, get somebody that's intelligent and hopefully got a little empathy, and explain your situation. And sometimes you can negotiate. Oftentimes they will waive payments. They'll say, okay, you can't make this payment. You're out of your job. You say you think you have another job in line. We'll waive the next 2 payments. Will you be able to make your third payment coming up? And that's the way you negotiate with a lender or a leasing company. And sometimes you're successful. They don't have to do it, but if it's in their best interest, they will often do it. And sometimes it's a PR thing. You take a leasing company and you take a situation of the widow I alluded to earlier. Nobody wants the newspapers or the television to jump up with a big story about how Honda Credit forced a widow to make payments on the car of her deceased husband when she couldn't afford it. I mean, they don't want that kind of PR. So sometimes negotiating a deal is better for the lender because they actually get more of their money back, and sometimes negotiating a deal is better with the lender or lessor because it keeps their name out of the newspapers. Earl Stewart.